There you go. If they go that way, they're on their own. Why? Oh.
The rest of the stuff, I'll put the gloves and put the mask.
Okay.
Just in case. Oh,
And the only thing about the video in the presentation is that I have to start it.
correct.
Okay.
I need to get the thing that goes on here.
That's why I had one extra.
You have to come right here. Do you mind grabbing it? I'm gonna go get my other stuff out of the car.
Yeah, no, no.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I see.
Oh, all right. And I will put these boards back. Oh, yeah.
Did you put them on the thing already? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yep.
No, we
I waited till after 5.
Okay. And I think, because James, did he use it last time?
I don't remember.
I don't think he does. I think he's the only one that doesn't.
Okay.
Pretty sure everyone else uses theirs. Yeah. I'll be right back. Oh, yeah.
Because they'll move. They don't like their seat.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna bring my lunch bag to my car. I'll be right back.
You left the bag inside the office?
Oh, yeah, I'll get that tomorrow.
Oh,
I
you don't need that? Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, it's stuff for Pam Soames for library.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think about this. I'm gonna use here with Jerry. Okay.
Hi, Jane.
Hello.
Okay,
Yes.
broadcast coming live and clear.
We did?
It's on right now.
Good.
Yeah.
I checked it earlier, you thought it was still on.
Yeah.
This will be for you to sign for the board meeting tonight.
Okay.
Right there. Okay. And I'm just going to put the sign-in sheet out there. I'm not going to put the grade sheets because they were supposed to have them into a sign-in.
Hi.
Hi,
Brandon.
how are you? So your presentation is great, and everything works.
Super. Does it play off the TV or what's it play off?
It plays on the TV, I just had to turn the volume way up.
Okay.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Could you real quick?
Okay. And if you plug the clicker in to charge it.
Sandy, could you, send Katie that link?
I sent it to her
Did
and
you?
to the lady from the Californian as well, and
Great.
Mary Warren, and she put it out here as
Great,
well.
that's great. Because she wanted me to FaceTime her. It's like, I can't do that
Right.
and run the meeting.
I let her know I'd send her the link, and I did, I talked to her.
Bingo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Great.
Heard this before, it's very hard to give you any specific guidance.
That's
Where we
allowed.
sit now, you may well be.
There should be a remote.
Parents who feel you either
Maybe a little
expose their
bit
child
more.
to COVID or increase their
Because at
exposure.
90.
And the frustrating part is you're going to be judged by some standard of care, and whether you fell below that, did you do what you could to protect students from harm? But we don't know what the standard of care is as we sit here today. Again, it's likely that the state and local guidance will be, plaintiffs groups would say that's the standard of care, and even that some of the shoulds, the things that you are recommended to do but not required in that guidance, would be best practices in their view. So as we've been saying, we're really hoping for some type of immunity at the state level. If the state is going to be pushing you to get kids back in the classroom, that they would take on some of this responsibility.
So the stream is live.
Yeah, I just got on there, Brooke. Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
you, Brooke.
You think you can see this? What screen is it going to?
It's that one.
Yeah. Oops.
So it's streaming right now.
What?
It's okay. While we look at our new collection.
Oh. Once I'm done.
Mhm.
And then we're going
We were here cleaning up the office, I could get it ready to open that. Back down again. And I had to go to work. One of the judges. I'll bring it now, make sure he says. That was the end of that. How do you say, I don't trust the sheriff.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
Did you ever find where you could share this? I'll do it a lot.
Okay.
Which valley? He does have some, days, but he is on vacation. He got off very hard.
Katie just talked to me.
I was gonna talk to Lisa, and Lisa said he was coming. I don't know.
Welcome back, kids. Do anything fun? Oh.
Oh, there you go.
Now you're the vacation for your rest.
I wouldn't even ask her to tell.
Good idea. Jerry, we're nominating you for the flag salute tonight.
Would you like me also to be the timekeeper?
Yeah, that was great. Someone over
Okay,
there.
yeah, that's fine.
We need to get you.
Got my stoplights right here.
My glasses are clogging up. I think I'm used to it again.
Good.
Well, hey, I didn't get it. No, we were right test driving up. Did you see that Porsche? That thing was on the road.
Still.
9/11. Yeah, like 127.
Well, that's good.
Jesse's fine. He's either gonna
We're
go
paying
on
for
the
one
BMW
hundred. One or the other.
or the Porsche, but we're gonna go test drive a Boxer tomorrow,
Around the world with it.
because we don't have any here. So we're gonna go down to Newport Beach. It, what year is it? It's the same time. Yeah. I didn't think about that, yeah. Oh, if we don't make, because I'm actually, I got, I'm getting USD. Mine's 15 years old.
Yeah, I can get.
And I have that rest of me. I travel so much, I'm trying for my luggage.
Kevin, it's appropriate for me to take my mask off.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. It's June 29, and I would like to thank everybody for their attendance tonight for this special meeting that we have called. And I'm going to take my mask off just so you can all hear me very clearly. I'll start by reading tonight's mission. I'll start by reading the mission statement. The Panama Buena Vista Union School District's mission is to partner with parents and community committing to a high-achieving, balanced academic program for all students, resulting in responsible, high-achieving 21st century citizens. And in tonight's attendance, we have myself, we have Trustee Shariel Geen, our Vice President, Trustee Keith Woolridge, we have Trustee Dean Hannock, and we also have Trustee Blake. And staff members in attendance this evening, we have Dr. Kevin Silverberg, we have Dr. Pam Bianchi, we have Mr. Glenn Imke, Mr. Darrell Johnson, and Ms. Jerry Kincaid. And tonight's flag salute will be led by our favorite, Ms. Jerry Kincaid.
Now time to honor America with the flag salute. Please stand. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For guests this evening, guests or visitors are welcome to sign the guest register. And moving on to correspondence, hearings, delegations, and presentations. We do not have any tonight. Moving on to item 6, public comment. The Panama Buena Vista Union School District hereby provides a notice as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and considering the governor's orders, the June 29, 2020 Board of Trustees meeting will not be physically open to the public. You may address the board via email as outlined below. Based on guidance from the California Governor's Office and the Department of Public Health, as well as the county health officer, in order to minimize the potential spread of the COVID-19 virus, please do the following. Submit your comment via email to P-BVUSD.K12.ca.us no later than 12 p.m. on June 29, 2020. Prior to the Board of Trustees meeting, please include your name, clearly indicate the agenda item you wish to address. All public comments received at the following guidelines above will be provided to all board members and applicable staff for review and consideration by the Board of Trustees prior to taking action on any matters listed on the agenda and are incorporated into the official record of the board meeting. So we do have several public comments this evening that myself and the other trustees will go ahead and be reading. We are limiting these to 3 minutes per reading, and would like to volunteer Trustee Olkeen to start us off with the first public comment.
We want to make sure we use our microphones tonight. The folks online maybe comment if they want to hear what the board members say.
Okay. So I have one here from Lisa Moore. Timer? Good morning. I would like to address the school board on behalf of my students who don't have a voice, or those parents do not know that they can have a voice. I know that it is a risk to reopen fully in August, but I believe that the best option is to open 5 days a week for the safety and health of all the students. I think about my students who are at the home alone with no support from their families, those who are often obligated to care for younger siblings because their parents are working, or those who are under the care of a parent who is abusive or unfit to fully care for their children. For many of my students, school is a safe place where they can just be a kid and hope to have a better future. Distance learning only works with support at home, and many of my students don't have that support. They need to be in a school as often as possible. What about those parents who do not have childcare, yet they have to go to work to feed their families? They are being forced to choose between feeding their families and educating their children. Please give families a choice to send their children to school. This is just another reason why we would rethink year-round school. Year-round school would enable us to adapt our school breaks for emergency situations like this pandemic, but still give students an opportunity to create a better life through education. We can still have the option of distance learning for those who do not feel safe sending their children to traditional school. In giving the option of distance learning, I hope you consider the consequences or protocols for families who choose distance learning but refuse to participate. I appreciate all the thought and consideration you have put into this decision. As a teacher, I'm willing to take the chance of catching a virus that could or could not be deadly to give my students a safe place, positive environment to thrive in so that they have a chance to be a better future. Please open our schools to students full time. Thank you for your consideration on this matter. Lisa Moore. Thank you, Glenn. This one's from Marcy Huntley. Dear PVU, school board members, and the cabinet. My name is Marcy Huntley. This letter addresses agenda item 7. I am more comfortable speaking than writing. However, I feel you need to hear the voice of a primary teacher. Distance learning may work for intermediate students, but when it comes to our lower primary, it is unproductive. As a lower primary teacher, I feel that distance learning is an obstacle to our students' learning and establishes a strong foundation. So much of our learning experience requires face-to-face interaction, especially the beginning of the year. At the end of the 2019-2020 school year, we were very resourceful and we made it work because that was our job. I will be honest, my attendance was poor and my Zoom meetings became more about interactions with me and my students. We just talked. I had parents sending me messages on Parent Square asking if I would talk Zoom with their child because they were having a breakdown. I teach kindergarten and I have students having breakdowns because of lack of socialization and being locked in their homes. My teacher's heart is breaking, but I know that most of my students had a strong foundation. Now we are looking at the new school year and I'm telling you, I'm having a difficult time envisioning what my teaching will look like. The beginning of the year for a kindergartner is different from any other grades. This may be the first time a child has been in a school situation. The first lessons are how to sit down and listen to a story, how to follow directions, how to echo and respond, how to be a student. I cannot teach these skills online. The beginning of our school year is all about how to be at school. How do we act at school? How do we make friends at school? I wouldn't have the connection that I had built with my student last year. I would not have the authority because these students don't know me. Our first goal is for every kindergarten to be able to recognize and write their name. I wonder how they would achieve this skill if they were at home. We cannot expect the parents to help if by age 5 they have done little to teach their child that skill, let alone master it. These are obvious skills that we teach at the beginning of the year. There are also developmental skills hidden in our everyday instruction. The sound manipulations we do on the spot as a brain break. The unwinding games we play that work on phonological skills. Lower primary grades are a developmental world of their own. The basics learned in the lower primary grades help the student to become successful learners. Taking away this type of learning environment will affect these students' future educational success. These students need to be in school as much as possible. I agree we should be giving parents a choice on whether or not they send their child to school, but I feel there needs to be an option for children to be at school more than 2 days a week. The board has a very difficult decision as a, and I have one more. This is from Sarah Camp. Dear panel of Buena Vista board members, my name is Sarah Camp, and I am a 6th grade teacher at Berkshire Elementary, and also a parent of a 2nd grader who attends Berkshire. I'm writing to you today to share my concerns over the plans to return to school in August. I watched the board meeting on Tuesday and grew very concerned with questions asked, the plan proposed, and all of the logistics going into this as people try to return to normal. I have surprisingly found that after the board meeting Tuesday, many teachers are sharing the same view as I am for next year. We need to return to school 100% online. I felt I was in the minority of things, but after Tuesday's board meeting and the rising numbers here in Kern County, especially with the governor specifically calling Kern County out to close bars, more teachers are speaking out in favor of 100% online learning. Here are my thoughts and concerns on our current situation regarding next school year. Safety. With people being asymptomatic carriers, there's no way to ensure that a temperature check will catch if anyone has COVID. We have learned that people, especially children, can carry COVID without ever showing signs and expose other people to it. I'm worried that being in a classroom and around other staff members who would potentially be asymptomatic carriers, not only am I worried for students and staff, I worry for the families of students who will become exposed to it as well. B, I heard the letters you read at the board meeting regarding the parents and the staff members who wish to return to normal. No part of this is normal, nor will it be anytime soon. It is wrong to have everyone return to school, even with the precautions in place, when our numbers continue to rise and the governor is closing areas again. C, distance learning. Social distancing in class in the hallways and while getting lunch are going to be difficult and provide many issues. When does this become a discipline issue for the school, and how will those be handled? Here in Kern County, there is a large mixture of people who take all the necessary precautions to those who have taken no precautions and want everything to open up just like normal. These beliefs will be reflected in our students and how they handle themselves at school. 2, social-emotional health. I am deeply concerned that the social and emotional health of our students, explaining to my 8-year-old that he only gets to go to school 2 days a week, and on top of that, he will not get recess. He cannot hug or high-five his friends or teacher is devastating to him. He is a very caring boy and loves to help out and collaborate with his classmates. He was devastated when school closed and he received no closure from that school year. If we open on this modified schedule, it will be damaging. The classroom will resemble a sterile doctor's office instead of the comfortable and loving place they normally are. The social distancing will not be understood, especially by younger students, or will it have the opposite effect, as I have seen in my 8-year-old niece, where it will greatly increase their anxieties and fears.
Thank you, Trustee Olguin. Dr. Haddock?
They were the ones that were on top of you. They were separate. You must have mixed them. Did you keep the ones inside your packet, or you took them out?
They were all there, and so I don't know. That's what I was trying to find out.
President, would you like me to go while Dr. Howard explains the two that you asked him to read? Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you, Trustee Lake.
Okay, first one I have here is from Leah Martinez. It says, Dear Panama Buena Vista board members, my name is Leah Martinez and I am a fourth grade teacher at Stockdale Elementary. I'm writing today to share the viewpoint that I and other teachers share in regards to how we will be proceeding this fall. I am strongly for an online learning model. I love being a teacher, and this is absolutely what I was supposed to do with my life. My classroom is my safe space, as it is for my students. However, I do not feel safe going back to my classroom this fall, as I am at risk because I'm pregnant. I fear for my life as well as my unborn child. I strongly believe the schools will do their best to keep the campus as clean as possible, as we have an amazing custodial department. But that does not ease the fear of this first-time mother. As a young teacher, I am strongly adept with technology. I feel that teaching online is a viable option. Before we left for summer break, I was teaching new content through videos every day. I also held small group and whole group online meetings with my class twice a week, no problem. With hard work and collaboration of other teachers, I am positive a good model for online teaching can be put in place by this fall. I would go so far as to volunteer to be on a committee to help design a plan. Thank you for your time and consideration, Leah Martinez. My next public comment is from Michelle Stevens. It says, hello, my name is Shelley Stevens and I have been employed with the Panama Buena Vista Union School District as an SDC teacher for the mod severe population since the 2010-2011 school year. I've thoroughly missed working with my students and understand there have been various options being discussed regarding reopening this August, including rotating schedules of in-person instruction for students. However, since my husband and I are both teachers for P-BVUSD and our elementary children attend Reagan Elementary, the alternating schedules will be almost impossible for us to maintain with our current daycare options. Our boys are enrolled in the daycare at Reagan, and this is necessary for us since the school we work at, Actus Junior High, has a later end time than their school. However, if there is not an option for daycare during the school days that they are not receiving in-person instruction, it will be a huge difficulty, if not impossible, to be able to fulfill my role as an educator. I hope there can be some discussion on ways that employees may be able to make sure their personal children are cared for in the event that schools are reopened with an alternating schedule. I felt that the survey that was sent to parents and staff members did not adequately address this issue. As of yet, care of dependents have not been affected, but definitely could be based on what the district decides. Additionally, I do have concerns with reopening schools. The fact that as more states are becoming more open, and as a result we are seeing dramatic increases in COVID-19 cases, is a huge concern for me. While I adore my job, staff, and most of all my students, I see this time as being much more risky from a health perspective than when the initial decision to close the schools was made. Thank you very much for your consideration, Shelley Stevens. Those were the two that you asked me to read.
Thank you, Trustee Lake. Trustee Woolridge?
My first is from Tricia Niffen. Dear Board, my name is Tricia Niffen and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Van Horn Elementary School. There has been a lot of talk about different options to open school in the fall. I wanted to share my thoughts on the matter. School is a very safe place for students. Many students find that school becomes their home and the teacher and students become their family. Kindergarten is the start of that relationship a child makes in their school journey. Kinder teachers have a unique job of supporting and encouraging students as they begin their journey into school for the first time. Kinder teachers become a mother or father-like figure to these young students who come to school missing their mommies and daddies. We support them with open arms, conversations, love, stickers, fun pencils, and anything to make them smile and feel comfortable. What will these students do without that if they are learning from home? Question mark. In saying this, I feel that school needs to be open in a traditional, normal setting. Students need consistency, in-person communication, socialization, exercise, distance from parents and family members, and a chance to develop as individuals. How will students learn at home if they do not have the proper school supplies that the classroom offers? How will students learn if they or their parents can't log into their Chromebook? What if there are not enough Chromebooks for every student? How will kindergartners learn to write their name without a person help from their teacher? How will students learn in a safe environment if the parents have to work full time? What will happen to those students that are not being held accountable to their distance learning assignments because their parents are working and they can't find a babysitter and a babysitter that is qualified enough to help students through distance learning? How will kindergarten students learn to count, add, subtract without manipulatives at their fingertips that a classroom has to offer? How will kinder students learn to color properly without paper and pencil type activities? How will students be protected from abuse or neglect without school officials being there to notice significant changes? One of the most important jobs as a teacher is to be an advocate for my past, present, and future students. I am standing up for these students and requesting that we do what is best for them by opening schools in a traditional face-to-face way. We will disservice and harm our students in the long run if we do not. Distance learning may work for intermediate and junior high level students, but it does not work for primary students in the youngest grades. Students need peer-to-peer interaction, group activities, and guidance from a teacher in person. It is not the same through a computer screen. As a kindergarten teacher, we teach the ins and outs and procedures of school. If students are learning from home, they will not learn these important skills. There is no way to teach students how to line up, raise their hand to speak, hold a pencil, cut, read, or write through a computer screen. I feel young students will fall far below basic level in the most foundational grade levels. I understand there is fear that the virus can spread, but with extra precautions such as temperature checks at the entrance of school, small interviews with students about exposures, we can limit the spread of the virus. Thank you. The next one we have is from Sherry Varner. Trustees, good evening. My name is Sherry Varner and I teach 5th grade at Miller Elementary. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your hard work managing our district. The reason for this email is to give you a teacher's input regarding a suggested model of instruction for our return to school. My concern for the combined traditional and distance model learning is implementing both models will create a resource shortage in the classroom. There are too many factors to take into account to implement both models at the same time. Last, as we demonstrated in March, me and my colleagues will continue to adapt and support our students to the best of our abilities. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Trustee Woolridge. Dr. Haddock?
The first letter that I have is from Elisa Taggart. Hello, I realize opening the school on August 12th is a daunting task. There are so many different variables that play into safely opening all schools for students and staff. With that being said, after attending the June 23rd, 2020 live stream board meeting, many ideas come to mind that I would like to share with you and the board members. Feel free to forward to all board members. Thoughts and ideas. I was taught if I have concerns, I should not be part of the problem, but part of the solution. Here goes. If I am understanding correctly from the live stream, Mr. Lake liked parents to have a choice regarding 100% distance learning, A/B schedule, and or other options. Can that be sent out by June 30th with a due date by July 13th so parents can proceed with daycare planning, etc., and notify the public and Panama Buena Vista School District employees on the next board meeting on July 21st? Yes, every quick turnaround. But parents and employees need time to plan childcare. If the board votes on a B schedule, have one teacher per grade level. Have the task to plan with their other grade level team members. The standard-based distance learning packets for the 3 days students are home, posts on Google Classroom, and communication support those students that are home and not at school through Google Meet or Zoom. This idea would enable all students to have access to a teacher 4 days a week and all grade levels to collaborate and plan standard-based lessons. The 5th day, the grade levels would plan together. PLC meetings, Google Meet, etc. If parents want their child to only attend school through online distance learning, the teachers who earned their distance learning 1-2 certificate and may have the opportunity to request that job assignment. If schools open on August 12th, all teachers and staff should be supplied with N95 with ventilation device, masks, and facial shields. And all students should be supplied with quality surgical masks for everyone's safety.
Fine.
The next email is from Deborah Jackson. Dear Panama Buena Vista School District Board members, I expect that each of you is struggling with the question of what is best for the children who attend the many schools in the Panama Buena Vista School District. I write to you as a parent of a soon-to-be second grader at Hart Elementary School. I am grateful that you acted swiftly in March to end face-to-face instruction. Honestly, it has been challenging for everyone to try to assist our children with their schoolwork while also working. Despite the challenges, I beg you to prioritize the health of all community members by not reopening in the fall. It will be impossible for children to practice the level of social distancing and mask wearing required to minimize the risk to each other. I expect that you are receiving tremendous pressure from parents who wish that things could go back to normal. But until we have a vaccine that is widely available and affordable, please do not gamble with the health of my children. Please follow the lead of the CSU system by investing in high-quality distance learning while the danger of COVID-19 persists. Thank you, Deborah L. Jackson.
Thank you, Dr. Haddock. I have a few to read this evening. First, this one is from Jessica Ardre, who from Loudon and Seamlung Elementary, choral director and general music specialist. Dear Mr. Greg White and members of the board, I am a full-time general music specialist and choral director who has taught in our district for 8 years. I am writing you because I am concerned that elementary music was concerned to be temporarily suspended at the last board meeting. Also, elementary performing were not brought up, but the mention of choice or pullout Fridays led me to believe that bands, strings, and choir would be available only to those few students who have transportation provided on Fridays. Since safety is our number one concern, I suggest that elementary music not be cut, but rather have music taught remotely. We all know learning music in the classroom is superior, but considering the way things are looking with this pandemic, we need to be prepared for the worst. I was not prepared for COVID. I went from teaching 613 general music students and 194 choir students every week to 180 Google Classroom students and no choir. Even with fewer students, remote teaching was a lot more work to do. However, it was worth all the extra work because the students who did participate learned. They got more involved, asked questions, kept trying, wrote poetry, and created compositions that included new learning. Now that I've had this experience, I know that I can do it and do better. Performing ensembles will be hard to do, but there are ways we can remotely rehearse, record their safe performances at home, combine a mix of their various recording files, and produce a recording of their combined performance. For remote general music teaching, I plan to include lessons that they can do at home with their families, give one-on-one help, and include real aloud questions for students who need more verbal help with assessments. I will do whatever I can to help them learn because we all learn differently and I'm an educator, not an entertainer. However, I need your help. I need the classroom teachers' help. Students must be held accountable for distant learning to work. Elementary music is an academic course. Suspending it means not meeting our state and national standards. It means not creating well-rounded students. Mandatory music education for grades 1 through 6 is part of our state law according to Education Codes 51210E, which school districts have the power to enforce. This next one is from Anna Santiago. To the board, my name is Anna Santiago, and I am an elementary music teacher in the district. I'm entering my 9th year as a full-time teacher and have been with the district for 6 years. I'm writing to you to express concern over the potential role of elementary music teachers this coming school year. It was suggested that elementary music teachers be temporarily assigned as aides in a junior high classroom. I take issue with this for 2 reasons. 1, I am a credentialed teacher. I've won county awards for my instruction, as I have a number of my music colleagues. We are full-time educators, not mere providers of prep periods, and are overqualified for an aide position. 2, I am a multiple sclerosis patient and fear the physical repercussions of being thrown into a classroom in the midst of a pandemic. Additionally, the nature of a music class is that they see a higher number of students than the average classroom. I propose that elementary general music teachers be given the option to provide music instruction virtually. During the spring months, I created a YouTube channel and delivered content to my students multiple times a week, while also keeping up with them in the Google Classroom. I would like to continue this effective model. I would like to grant access to the classroom teachers so they could send the materials out to their students every week. I understand the high probability of P-BVUSD returning to a normal in-person schedule. I would hope that teachers are given a choice regarding their effectiveness as educators as well as their own safety. Thank you for your time, Anna Santiago, General Music and Chorus, from Berkshire and Laurel Glen. This next one is from Gretchen Smith, Laurel Glen kindergarten teacher. Dear board members of P-BVUSD, as a 28-year veteran educator and in the district for over 20, I am asking that you carefully consider the best for students and staff. While I believe the need to be in school, this year they need to do it safely. Safely means providing staff and students with the appropriate PPE. That means for everyone. Most of the times teachers are just that nice, that if they take it out of their own pockets to pay for things. When it comes to returning to school with PPE, this needs to be paid for by P-BVUSD, period. Please consider this. Also, clear expectations for the teachers, parents, and students need to be made. As a kindergarten teacher, I need to be told exactly what can and can't be done with the COVID return. If these expectations are not made soon, many teachers will be left to wonder what to do, and there will be different interpretations by different teachers. Teachers will be the ones left to answer to the parents, and these must be clear. Thanks for your consideration to the unprecedented reopening. Gretchen Smith, Laurel Glen kindergarten teacher. Thank you, trustees, for reading everything. We will now move on to our discussion topics, and we have 3 under item 7 this evening. And we'll go ahead and start with 7A, input from board members. And since we volunteered Trustee Olguin on the left, I guess we're just going to have to start with Trustee Lake on the right. So
I'm not sure if I'm surprised or not. Well, I think what I would want to start with is that thank you, President White, for calling a special meeting this evening. And thank you to everyone in the public and in our community for providing so much feedback. This clearly has been a topic that's generated more public comment and emails than any other topic since in my time on the board. For those of you who have sent me emails just to me that weren't to the board, haven't had time to respond to all of them. I know I got to many of you over the weekend. I was traveling and sitting on a plane going to Houston, which gave me a lot of time to think about the fact that we're able to cram a lot of adults onto a plane, and we can do that safely and in accordance with the guidelines of the CDC and the federal government. Certainly classrooms are different. I'm not saying these things are completely alike, but it gave me a lot of time to think about it nonetheless. I'm just going to go through sort of a stream of consciousness here, that my notes from the public comment that I received and a few other things, trustees. So I think one thing that's overwhelmingly clear in the feedback that I received and also listening to the other public comment tonight is that there seems to be very little, if any, support for a blended model. And so I think we really are faced with either online only or 5 days a week on campus, or my preferred option still, I believe, is that we give parents some sort of a choice, as well as our staff, of course, some sort of a choice. Secondly, of course, if we're going to be on campus, whether it's 2 days or 5 days or some other iteration of that, of course, everyone needs to have PPE. Masks, gaiters, which is what I'm wearing tonight, and I find to be more comfortable, especially for kids, or face shields. I would think actually face shields for teachers, if we are on campus, would make the most sense because children need to see facial expressions. I think there's plenty of research that shows 80%, I believe, of communication is nonverbal. So smiling and the twinkle in someone's eye is so important for human interaction. So couldn't agree with that more, and certainly the district will do everything in its power to make sure we follow all of those PPE guidelines. The third thing that I've heard throughout various public comments and emails that I've received is that people want to know what we're going to do sooner than July 23rd, which was, I believe, or is our next regularly scheduled board meeting. I'm very sensitive to that request, and as I do understand that parents and families need to make decisions, and some of those decisions require research and careful thought, prayer, and consideration. So I will be an advocate tonight, trustees, for figuring out some way where we could make a decision prior to July 23rd. I don't know yet when that might be, nor do I have the benefit of hearing staff's perspective on how soon we could reach a decision. Certainly it would require another special meeting, but I think that's a good thing. If we can do it, I think we should make a decision sooner than that. Several of the comments that I received to my email at the district were from teachers, and they raised questions about what would happen if they are on campus and they do come down with COVID and they have to start using their sick leave. And so I'd like the district, Dr. Silverberg, to respond to that tonight if you're able to, or at least comment on, getting back to us with the answers on that and make sure that we get that information out to our staff. If there's anything that the board can do with respect to a policy on that, I would certainly want to entertain that. If we could modify the normal rules or regulations around that in light of these unusual circumstances, I would definitely entertain that as well. Secondly, a related question that I received from several teachers was questioning whether or not they would lose their job if they refused to come on campus in the event that we only were to do on campus, which I don't think that's really something that's at the top of the list for the board, but nevertheless, it's a valid question. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the recently adopted state budget actually stipulates that teachers and staff cannot be laid off in this upcoming school year. I see Dr. Silver nodding his head yes, but I won't put words in his mouth. So I certainly would want the district to clarify that and inform our teachers and all of our staff what those provisions are in the new budget. And so The last thing that I have for now, while we continue the discussion, is lots of great feedback from our music department. Had some really great interaction with some of you via email, and thank you for giving some specific recommendations, which I'll be able to forward to Dr. Silverberg. We know as a board that music has always been a hallmark of this district. I know from personal experience and research that music is a very stimulating tool for intellectual development and learning of the brain. And so I certainly want to do everything I can to support our music department. I'm 100% convinced that we can make that happen, again, by giving some choices and getting creative and working together. So all in all, I'm very confident that we can get through this year. And I know that by all of us working together, we're going to make it happen, and we're going to keep people safe, and we're going to give people choice, I believe. So those are my initial thoughts, President White.
Thank you, Trustee Lake. Trustee Woolridge?
Again, thank you, Trustee White, for convening us for this very important topic. To echo Mr. Lake's sentiment, I believe this is probably one of the most responsive decisions we've had to make as a board. You know, outside of moving district lines, this has been the one that has drawn the most attention in my 10 years serving on this board. And for me, it comes down to one thing. It's student achievement. Behind me, or I should say in front of me, there's this excellence in education. I'm of the belief now that the AB model, while it has some merit, does not provide excellence in education. Especially for, I'm just going to say it, the least of these. Our kinders, our Title I students, lower economic students, our foster children, our Black, our Hispanic children, they are at the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, educationally. We all know they need school 5 days a week, or the achievement gap is going to continue to broaden and widen, and we may not ever catch up. And then I would hate that all the hard work that we've done in our lead academies, that work may not be recovered only going to work or coming to school 2 days a week. For a lot of that student body, getting them there 5 days a week is a challenge. So I can see what happens just saying they only have to come 2, some may come 1, others may not appear at all. So for me, 5 days is the option. I have complete confidence in our custodial team that they will disinfect, they will do all that they can. I would like to hear from, is Nurse Gordon in the house? Oh, she's there. I would like to hear from her this evening on health protocols to make sure parents have safety foremost, confidence in our safety system, and also for our teachers. If we do have choice and we go to an online model, I would like to hear, I don't see our legal counsel, but I'm of the firm belief that if you are 2 or more grade levels behind, online is not an option for you. After listening and reading some of those students may not have the skill set, their parents may not have the skill set to help them in the online environment. Now, I don't know if we can mandate that because we do have the data. This past 2 years, we've been a data gathering organization. So we know which students are struggling. So when we're sitting down with the parents and they're going through the options, and we say, you know, Johnny's 3 grade levels behind, and that parent may want to go online board. I think we owe it to that parent to ask them, do you have the skill set to make up the difference? Because that child now is not getting 95% group, and they're definitely not going to get it in an online environment. So they're not getting that pull out now in an online environment. So for me, I'm for a 5-day, we go back to school, we implement everything that we can implement from a safety protocol and procedure. But if a child is behind, here is an opportunity now to catch them up. Because there will be a level of parent that will opt to do homeschooling or do online only. Now this child can get one-on-one. So I would implore us all to think about that. I don't know if we can do it legally. I don't know if we can mandate it, but I would like for us to consider if the child is behind 2 or more grade levels, online isn't an option. They need to be in school. That's the balance of my time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Woolridge. Dr. Howard?
Well, first of all, I want everyone to know, especially the ones that send emails and who may be watching us on YouTube, that I have read every email that was sent to the board and paid attention to it and listened to your concerns and your advice. I've studied everything that's sent and or searched for all information from many sources regarding our decisions tonight. You guys all know I love to do research. That's what I do. The COVID-19 coronavirus is a very complex challenge, making life and death decisions that can and will affect all of us, especially in education. I was on a trustee meeting record that this virus pandemic was very serious and that we needed to prepare then in March for the health, safety, and protection for everyone. And we have all seen this challenge magnified daily since. On a personal note, my office, Community Counseling and Psychological Services, has been quarantined since the last week of March. My staff and I have done our best to adapt in providing telepsych medicine and all other recommendations from reliable consults and services. My son Josh and I were also self-quarantined by our malpractice insurance, the Board of Psychology, the Board of Medical Quality Assurance, state and federal health services. We thought we could reopen our office that happens to be next door, 6313 Shira Court, by the end of June. At least that's what people were telling us. However, now we've received new orders not to open as a virus spike is expected to last through October and maybe to January 2021. I share this because opening the schools is just as serious and yet more complex. Just so you know, this is all the papers that we needed to be able to open up our offices safely. One office. We're supposed to take temperatures of all of our staff members, anybody that comes in, only one person at a time. If they have someone who brought them, they have to go sit in their cars. They can't come in. We can't leave magazines in the waiting room, and it goes on and on and on. Schools are much more complex than that, and I just had to share that with you. Everyone involved needs to be heard. Parents, teachers, staff, administrators, everyone that's involved. I know we reviewed the reopening of schools planning by the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. They did a great research project here, basically telling us everything that could go wrong. And they're right. This is a dangerous thing that we're having to plan for and keep everybody safe. Student employee attendance rates may decline in the school year. Student learning outcomes going into 2021 will be uneven. Increases in special education due process filings, demands for compensatory education are likely to increase unless relief from some of the provisions in Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and it goes on and on. I just want you all to know that we're taking this serious and we really want what's best. Some research that I've done, there's experts in education, they recommended different ones. Phased reopening. Schools bring back only some students at first to avoid crowding buildings. I'm making this brief. The socially distant school day. School buildings initially open 1 day a week with students continuing to learn remotely the other 4 days. That can help build the confidence of the students, parents, and staff as they gradually return to school and allow schools to more easily scale back operations if there's another wave of the virus later in the school year. There's a multi-track system. Schools operate on a track schedule with groups of students in school buildings on different days and engaging in remote learning when they are home. For example, one cohort of students comes to school on Mondays and Wednesdays, another cohort comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and everybody stays home on Fridays. And then there's other versions of that. The pro of that is keeping buildings empty on Fridays allows for regular deep cleaning without disruption to teaching and learning. Staggered schedules, bubble strategy, cyclical lockdown strategy, and year-round schedules. Of all the research that I've seen so far, to me, the multi-track system seems to be the most appropriate by being able to provide the education and be able to have a good sanitization on Friday that will allow the kids to return safely and not infect each other. One last thing that I just had to share this because I put a lot of thought into what I wanted to share tonight. You guys probably know, I think I'm probably the oldest one up here. So if you don't know who Paul Harvey is, I loved Paul Harvey growing up, and he always had some good things to say on the radio. One of the best ones I ever heard was tribute to teachers and educators. His words are still true, rhythmic, and an inspiration to this day. Paul Harvey, like my mother, was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of people in the valley here are from Oklahoma. He loved making radio receivers as a young boy, and he attended Tulsa Central High School, where his teacher, Isabel Ronan, was, quote, impressed by his voice, unquote. On her recommendation, he started working at P-BVUSD in Tulsa in 1933, helping to clean up at the station when he was 14 years old. He always credited his teacher, Isabel Ronan, and God for his success. Many of you know, and you've heard me during the past 8 years, report on the special teachers in my life, and especially my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Seward, who took the time to know all of her students and encourage them to know and live their strengths and life's potentials. She planted the seed for me to become educated and help others because she could see in my heart that I not only love to help people, but to protect them also. This is my tribute to Paul Harvey, Paul's tribute to teachers. And on the 8th day, God looked down on his children, big and small, and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a teacher. God said, I need somebody willing to plan and pray before dawn, love without limits over and over, to teach language arts in grade school and algebra to college students. I need people to spend all day in front of students, to plan and grade for hours, eat dinner quickly, and then work past midnight. I need folks at school, productions and football games, and to bump into students at the grocery store. I need somebody with arms strong enough to hold the egos of young men, yet gentle enough to wipe the tears of preschoolers. I need protectors, brave enough to be heroes when tragedy strikes. So God made a teacher. Because in the same way that God knew his land needed to be tended, he knew the hearts of children would need to be held and mended. So God made a teacher. I need somebody with arms strong enough to hold the egos of young men, yet gentle enough to wipe the tears of preschoolers. I need protectors brave enough to be heroes when tragedy strikes. So God made a teacher. It had to be somebody to encourage, advocate, and challenge, despite the backdrop, whether it be in the classroom, on the college campus, or in the preschool parking lot. Someone to stand in the common areas, in the hallways, and at recess to notice all the things kids of all sizes try to hide. God said, I need someone to be the only hug that child of mine receives when she finishes 2nd grade. And someone to high five that freshman boy who thinks he doesn't want a hug. Someone who tells each of them to come back real soon and visit. So God made a teacher. God said, I need somebody willing to sit in the bleachers and in the auditorium and watch a girl try to find herself on the stage and on the volleyball court to watch her almost make the cut over and over, then dry her tears and say, maybe next year. I need somebody who can scoop goldfish into toddlers' hands and shape an insecure boy with no father figure into someone self-confident enough to tackle college. So God made a teacher. Someone who from July's pre-planning to the last spring pep rally will finish a full year's worth of work by the 1st of June. Then during what parents refer to as their summer vacation, put in another 200 hours planning, purchasing, and praying for their next students. So God made a teacher. God had to have somebody willing to ride the buses on field trips and to get pencils and scissors for those who couldn't afford them or whose parents simply forgot. Someone empathetic enough to stop and turn after seeing a hurt feeling form on a child's face on field day. So God made a teacher. God said, I need somebody strong enough to teach young minds to subtract and divide with pencils while multiplying the love in their hearts. Someone who will stop all of their planning for a day to decorate desks and doors for Valentine's Day. It had to be somebody who would read them Goodnight Moon and The Great Gatsby and make them fall in love with Shakespeare. Somebody to seed, weed, feed, and rate their self-esteem. Somebody who'd weave a class of misfits together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. Someone who would laugh and then wink at parents and reply, I know, with understanding eyes. When their student says, I'm leaving for college and won't miss this place a bit. So God made a teacher. I'm no Paul Harvey, but this is my best for tonight. God said, I need somebody strong enough to teach young minds, help them feel safe, and protect them as we are threatened with a worldwide pandemic that scares the old and the young. So God made a teacher. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haddock. Trustee Olguin.
All right. Well, thank you, President Lake, for calling this meeting tonight. White, sorry. I have Lake written right here because I was taking notes as you were speaking. So obviously, this is a very touchy and difficult situation that we're in. And as the other board members have stated, they've received emails and from parents and staff, and I have as well, and text messages and messages via Facebook on what we're going to do and why are we doing it. So I'm glad we're having an opportunity to have this discussion, and so that way this decision can be made jointly. So after listening to the letters that were sent and the letters from last week and my fellow board members, you know, I don't think we're going to make everyone happy here, but we have to make a decision on what we're going to do, and we need to make that quick. So for me, I think we need to give parents a choice. I think they need to have a say on what we're going to do with their child. I don't know if it's possible, but what I have here is, as my three choices would be a 5-day school schedule. Trustee Woolbridge hit on this with, you know, our low socioeconomic students, our Title I students, our lead schools. They're the ones that need the 5 days. Those students are the ones that are going to struggle the most. You know, our students being abused at home, the ones being locked in closets and not fed. Those are the students we can't reach out to right now because we're not in school. And then maybe the AB hybrid model. You know, students still, if parents agree, their child can have some type of interaction with their teacher at least 2 days a week. Or we could even do the AB model 3 days a week. I don't know. And then my third choice would be the 5-day online for the students and staff that don't want to come at all and want to do some type of online schooling, distance learning. So the challenge with the 5-day distance learning is obviously it would be a parent choice, teacher choice, and then we'll need some type of system to monitor teachers
and to monitor students? And what kind of accountability are we gonna have? I mean, I've heard, for most spectrums, the teachers that have been nonstop reaching out to their students every single day, at least 2-3 hours a day, doing some type of activity, reading to them, whatever it is. And then I've heard some horror stories from some parents. I got a call over the weekend that there are some teachers, and I'm not saying all, and I'm sure she's just speaking for her child's teacher, that didn't even reach out at all. Wouldn't even answer text messages, wouldn't even have Zoom meetings, but yet she was putting on Facebook that her and her daughter were able to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle in 2 days. So it's like, what are the priorities for some of the staff? And I think our students need to be the priority. So I know that Governor Newsom is putting into place a bill. I pulled it up, and he's looking into some type of accountability system for the distance learning, to take online attendance, and for teachers to document student learning, because they do need to be held accountable. And it's, you know, you could do one thing bad and that's what everyone remembers, but then there are good teachers out there that are making every single effort, you know, taking calls, taking text messages all hours of the day. I know my sister was taking text messages at 10:30 at night, answering parents. And so learning is, the schools struggle to get all students online. That is why for our low socioeconomic students and our Title I students, those are probably the students we need in place 5 days a week if the parents are willing. And in the end, we just need to be able to deliver a rich blend of online and face-to-face instruction. And I think parents need to have a choice. That's all I have, President.
Thank you, Trustee Olguin. First off, I'd like to say that the Panama Buena Vista Union School District, and all of our administrators, our board members, our teachers, our faculty, everyone has had a tremendous amount of commitment throughout this crisis. And in my opinion, it is really proven that we are, if not definitely one of the hardest working school districts in the state of California, hands down. Because, and I would like to, thank everyone, from our staff, our administration, board members, everyone's commitment and hard work throughout this crisis. And I would also like to thank all of our parents for their concerns as well. And just as my colleagues on the board here have brought up several great ideas. I mean, the focus of educating our children must first and foremost always come first, but not at the risk of health and safety of our stakeholders. We need to provide solutions to support our parents to get the choice. We need choices for teachers, and we need to ensure that the safety of our children, administrators, staff are addressed, and the options selected are in the best interest of our kids. And we live in a very serious time, and we have to protect our children. We have to protect all families involved and all stakeholders. And I appreciate all of the concerns, the emails, the phone calls provided by everyone. And please know that each and every one of you have my 100% attention. And you have my 100% support. And please know that, considering all parties involved, that we as a board and as a district will make the absolute best decision possible for all stakeholders involved. Moving on to 7B.
President.
Yes, sir.
Right, are we allowed to continue the conversation here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the public's asking for us to narrow down our options, and probably helps a little bit. I think we need to, for the benefit of the public and for staff, we really do need to narrow down the options tonight. I don't know that we can make a decision tonight, but we do need to debate this a little bit. This is our job. So I want to respond to a couple of thoughts you laid out, Trustee Olguin. I heard you say that you support choice, and then you listed the three kind of different options, 5-day on campus, some sort of blended, situation, whether it's 2 or 3 day a week. I know other districts are looking at an AM, PM rotation. Dr. Haddock suggested every other week with Friday deep cleaning days. I think that in the category of blended options, the list is almost endless. Unfortunately, I think the problem with that is it's, to use a marketing analogy that I learned in business school, it's like going into the grocery store now, and there's literally like 90 different flavors of toothpaste. And how many different types of toothpaste do we realistically need to choose from, right? And the point behind that, Dr. Haddock, you probably will appreciate this from psychology, is that sometimes having too many choices is overwhelming. And so I think for a lot of the reasons, the blended option, if that was the only thing we were to offer, just doesn't work for anybody, because it still doesn't address the concerns about what happens if you're on campus, if you are on campus. And it doesn't address academic achievement to the points that Trustee Woolridge made. And the other thing that I didn't voice earlier that I heard in several comments, but also in messages that I received, was that I believe many of our teachers probably feel that a blended model actually will be more work for them. They'll have to manage 2 different on-campus groups and teach that 2 days each to them. Then they also have to go manage online for another 2 or 3 days a week. So it feels like they're actually having to do 3 different things in the midst of having to deal with all the other changes that are going to be thrown at them if they are on campus. So for all those reasons, I would propose that we just eliminate any of these blended options and we just focus on choice and what that means, what that looks like, and that we're trading off between on campus and online. And more specifically then within that would be, what exactly does on campus look like? I think Ms. Dye gave very good information on all the things that are under consideration, but I know that the public and staff is wanting even more clarity to have those details be revealed so that people can make decisions. So I guess to summarize, let's narrow the options. Let's define exactly what we would expect in the classroom and on a school site, to the extent we have any specifics or proposals as a board tonight. And then maybe President White, time permitting, we should also talk a little bit more about could we make a decision before July 23rd? I'd love to hear other comments.
Trustee Woolridge?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. President. I concur with Trustee Lake, and I'm just going to propose that we look at 2 models, 5-day and online. Those would be the easiest. Why? For parents and for teachers, to his point. The 5-day, that helps our after-school program. They know what they need to do, how they need to staff that up. Cafeteria knows what they need to plan. Transportation knows what they need to do. So it's everybody has a plan, and it's an ease of operation. Now, if a parent chooses to go online, that's their choice. There are some parents out there that have the capability and the competency to homeschool. I do believe it was from Ms. Niffen or Kiffin. She says, if parents are nervous to bring their students to school, they should have the opportunity to request homeschool materials and activities to work at home. Students need consistency and face-to-face interactions at school. So I think the AB model counteracts the need for consistency. If you know you're online, and it's up to that parent to ensure that that child gets what they need. But still, staff, we have the data. I'm not going to leave this easily. If a child is behind 2 or more grade levels, I'm sure we can't mandate it, but we can highly encourage a parent that their child be in school 5 days a week. We want to give them that choice, yes, but if we, and again, I don't believe I can mandate it. I'm sure the law will prohibit me. But we have the data. We know what students are struggling. And we do not every parent has the competency to teach. They're physicians, they're scientists, they're nurses, they're not educators. So if we see that gap, please, if we can encourage them to have their child in school 5 days a week. So I'm narrowing it down to 5-day with all PPE, PPE in place. Again, that gives all of our departments the plan, as if it was 18,000 some odd students on campus. So that gives them the consistency and the insurance. And then if those that have the online model, we pray they have the competency to teach their child at school. But again, if that baby's behind, I'm saying it for the 4th time, let's do all we can to encourage that child to be in school. So those are my choices, 5-day and online, give parents a choice.
Thank you, Trustee Woolridge. Dr. Haddock?
You know, I agree with Trustee Lake and Trustee Woolridge. I just want to make sure that children are kept safe and that everyone is heard that's involved in this. The teachers are heard, the staff are heard, transportation is heard, and especially parents. Parents are the ones, you know, that need to be able to hear their voice, because some of them, you know, they need their jobs, and to be able to keep their jobs, they're going to need some full-time care for their kids with education. And as you all know, special education is at the center of my heart, and those kids are going to need some extra help. Dr. Ma's going to need even more help than she's been getting to be able to keep up with all those children. We need to keep them safe. A lot of those kids can't keep up with distance learning. They just don't have the ability to do that. We need to communicate. That's the bottom line. We got to all communicate and let everybody know the challenges and the pros and the cons of what works and what doesn't work, no matter how we begin this year. That's all I got.
Thank you, Dr. Haddock. Trustee O'Bean?
I agree with trustees Lake and Trustee Woolridge. I'm fine with the 2 days. I was just throwing out the 3-day just so we could have something to go with, but I'm all for the 5 days a week and or 5 days online. And I think we need parents a choice and move forward. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee O'Bean. Well, we can continue to talk about this a little bit more, but I think we've all spoken.
I have more thoughts.
Oh, okay, Trustee Lake.
Thank you. This is actually a question. Earlier this week, or maybe, I guess it was last week, I had a call with Dr. Silverberg and our incoming superintendent, Ms. Katie Russell, and I was informed that I believe we're going to be receiving some additional funding from the state related or directed at summer learning loss. And if I am not mistaken, I believe that amount is anticipated to be about $12 million, ballparkish.
It's about almost 17.
For summer learning loss or from the CARES Act?
That is the
COVID-19 summer learning loss.
learning loss mitigation grant.
So there's only one grant, there's not two.
I'm not aware of a summer school grant. It's all part of the same thing.
Okay, so that was my misunderstanding. The point being, I know that you're looking into the restrictions on how that money can be spent. If I am not mistaken, we do have to spend it by December 31st, from our understanding of it at this time, okay?
This time.
And I specifically want to come back to the idea that, not the idea, the requirement from my perspective that everyone needs to have PPE on campus. So let's extend that thought a little bit. I'm sure there are going to be some families who may not be able to procure that, or we all know that we forget things. I forget my keys or other things at least once a week, if not more often. And so I'm wondering, can this additional state funding be used to ensure that we do provide all the PPE necessary and sanitizing sprays and all the other things? I just wanted to explicitly ask that question of staff. I don't know if you can respond now or in your comments, Dr. Silverberg.
Yeah, we're gonna have a time for staff members, and I know Glenn has very specifics on that point.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was my only other question.
I guess bringing this all together, I'm in agreement with all of my colleagues up here, and I would be in favor of, a 5-day and online with all PPE in place. And at this time, given the idea that we continue to think things a little bit more as we continue to talk about this more, do any of the other trustees have any more ideas that come to mind, or are we pretty much clear to move on?
I think we're ready to move on. I just want to make, I'm interested to see what the staff here has to say, and then if we're able, we'll be able to chime in, right? It's not an end all. Just as a discussion, we're not making a decision tonight.
No, once you hear the staff,
Right.
they'll come right back to you
Okay,
with
perfect.
that information.
All right, thank you. I'm good.
Thank you, Trustee Olguin. Moving on to 7B, input from Superintendent Dr. Silverberg.
Thank you. Thank you for making time to be here on a Monday night for big ideas from you all. Staff is very anxious to get going on a plan. Last Tuesday night, we presented the AB model, and it was overwhelmingly received not exactly like we wanted it. And so back to the drawing board. So what I'd like to bring to you tonight is the other option. And if we're not doing the AB model or the blended cohort or any of the other models, what we want to present to you is the next option that you have all brought up. I'd like to take you through what does that look like? What would be the statement that we are looking for at the 60,000 foot level? We'd like to talk about what precautions we would take on campus. Kids were there 5 days a week. We'd also like to tell you about what it would look like in the cafeteria for lunch, nutrition. We'd like to talk about transportation. Give you just a little bit under the area of as kids come back 5 days a week. And then certainly we want to hear from schools legal. And Grant Herndon gave a testimony last week that I have 3 minutes of. He's going to talk about liabilities and the issues that you ought to know about. And the legislature added language today on the whole area of online education. Keith, for the first time, he said, the law's not on my side. The law's on your side this time. So I'm going to talk to you about, at 4 o'clock, we got an email from Michael Holsizer that says, here's the latest on online learning, and it's the trailer bill, and they're vetting out the language, and I think you'll be very interested to hear who can opt out of 5-day school. There are very, very specific categories for you to opt out. You can't just willy-nilly not opt out. You have to fall into a category to not be in school. So let's jump in. I've got like 10 yellow notes here, and I hope to cover them all. You brought up great ideas. Let me just take you through what it would look like. So here's, if we follow through with your desire, a full reopening of schools every day with an online learning option for students who are not yet comfortable coming back to school. That has no details, that has nothing but a vision statement for the district that would set a lot of things in motion. And this is the kind of thing we are looking for, and it would be beautiful if it was tonight. It'd be okay if it was July 21st, but we really need direction. If this is what the board is looking at, we are saying that we are fully reopening all schools every day with an online learning option for those who are not yet comfortable coming back to school. Now, that was written yesterday, and if I was to write it today, knowing the legislature's language, I would not have put who are not yet comfortable coming back to school. That's not right. It's very clear in the trailer bill about who goes online and who doesn't. So we'll get into that.
Dr. Stillward, can I give you feedback as we go?
Yeah.
Might be more efficient. I would make sure that the statement also includes staff.
Right, it did.
We're gonna have staff who may not feel comfortable or,
No.
or have.
For the option for students or staff who are not yet comfortable coming back to school. Exactly. So health precautions, and Nurse Nancy is in the audience, and she knows, and we all know, we've read all the documents from California Department of Public Health and our local public health. We know that schools must comply with state and local. We must address them, but they are guidelines, and they're not clear guidelines. They're still meeting right now and defining what social distancing looks like. If you have a mask on, you have to social distance, and all these questions that we have. But for sure, we're going to be all about temperature checks, wearing masks, physical distancing, and hand washing. We're also going to limit who comes on campus. Basically, campuses are going to be closed. And that means parents can't come on campus like they're very used to doing. If you went on a few of our campuses in the morning, it's like a mall. It's just pure parents and teachers and everybody else. We have to shut down our campuses. Kids are coming on, and that's it. I put few because there are instances where someone who is legit that needs to come on campus, like a health, someone from the health department or somebody like that, in the rare instance that a visitor must come to school. There will be no assemblies or field trips. And there's also a very specific thing in the California Department of Public Health about doing what we hate to do, is open doors with the air conditioner on. That's so against our policies, but they talk about ventilation, ventilation, ventilation. And you have to have good ventilation. And there's some classrooms that don't have windows that open, like as much as we would want. So we have to guarantee good ventilation in the classroom. So what about the next area, transportation? Todd Price is in the audience, and students who normally ride the bus, if what you're advocating is 5 days a week, the kids who normally ride the bus will have that option every day. Sanitizing standards will be put into practice on the bus. Basically, we're learning best practices from other districts. We thought the best idea was to take their temperature before they got on the bus. And Todd would tell you why that's not a great idea. We definitely want them to be sanitized when they come on the bus and when they leave the bus. And so we will be putting different best practices into place with kids on the bus. Nutrition. Is Mary Lou in the house? Let me see. Oh, hi, Mary Lou. Okay, Mary Lou would tell you that they are ready set to put together a grab-and-go lunch for classroom eating. And that unfortunately salad bars with choices or any kind of self-select would be out of limits for this time. We just can't have kids selecting from a salad bar or some of the ways that they go through and they pick their item. It's basically going to be a grab and go with a sack lunch and eat in their classrooms. Learning loss. Staff will develop a comprehensive approach to mitigate that learning loss that's happened since March. This may be after school, Saturdays, and or the summer of 2021. Now, the idea of after school is interesting. Saturdays, you can't have 6 school days in a week. You have to have a Monday off, like a Veterans Day, and then you could have a Saturday school. They might relax that, but if you listen to a lot of Sacramento officials, they'll say Saturday school, Saturday school, Saturday school is the answer. I'm not sure that is the answer, but maybe summer of 2021, somehow we can push the school year to extend through 2021. The whole idea of on-ramping and some of the conversations I've had with each of you is a tough one. Research doesn't support it. We looked at this all weekend, and if you took what's more effective after school or an on-ramping system where kids would get 6 days of on-ramping after school outweighs that. And so Dr. Bianchi and Randy Dyer are here, and they have definite views on this and what summer school has looked like in the past. And they are more than willing to talk to the board about the pluses and minuses. We just know that that's a problem. The learning loss has occurred, and we need to be vigilant about the mitigation of taking care of that learning loss. And we've been given an awful lot of money to do that, so. Okay, I think the next one is gonna be Grant, and it goes right into his testimony, and let's see, yeah. What, look at that.
Heard this before, it's very hard to give you any specific guidance where we sit now. You may well be sued by parents who feel you've either exposed their child to COVID or increased their exposure. The frustrating part is you're going to be judged by some standard of care, and whether you fell below that. Did you do what you could to protect students from harm? But we don't know what the standard of care is as we sit here today. Again, it's likely that the state and local guidance will be, plaintiffs groups would say that's the standard of care, and even that some of the shoulds, the things that you are recommended to do but not required in that guidance, would be best practices in their view. So as we've been saying, we're really hoping for some type of community at the state level. If the state is going to be pushing you to get kids back in the classroom, that they would take on some of this responsibility. But in talking with Michael Holsizer, Michael's telling us that that's really much more likely to happen at the federal level in connection with funding, and that our state folks have been reluctant to take that up almost on the theory that if you have immunity, that incentivizes you to be up beyond safety somehow. So that's disappointing, but we're gonna have to kind of wait and see what the developments are. So we're getting people submitting their plans to us, and it's just difficult. If someone says, well, what if I have 5.6 feet of social distancing and not 6 feet? Does that pass muster? Well, again, that's very hard to judge in this setting. We've also been asked to provide waivers of liability because normally, if you have the potential, we talk with the CIS panel lawyers who litigate these issues all the time, and they'll tell you some of the things we normally do are post warnings, ask for waivers. But I would say that most school lawyers all across the country, not just in California, are very reluctant to tell you you should take any comfort from a waiver in this situation, because you're asking parents to say waive your rights so that we can get your child back in school, and you're required to access an education. So again, we just don't want you to feel that you have any solid protection in a waiver, whether it's for graduation or for reopening. There also could be a negative publicity aspect. Again, in the sense that it may look that you're requiring to have parents waive these rights so that their kids can come back to school. So, sorry, I wish I could give you more comfort there. There could also be claims about your failure to provide an appropriate education. We've seen all of this commentary about how distance education worked in the spring when everybody was working so hard to get a product out there. I think those claims would be harder to assert and prove, but we may see those taken up by groups around the state. And so now we're seeing the state, in the trailer bills, we're seeing the state weigh in more in terms of detail about what distance learning should look like and more kind of specific criteria there. So I appreciate the work that CISC is doing to look at some kind of possible pool, even, whatever the cost may be, so that there's something if districts want to take advantage of that. And I think, we really want to wait and see if there's any kind of immunity type legislation for you. So sorry, I don't have something more concrete. We're just going to have to see how some of these factors unfold.
Okay. Trustee Obin, it's SB 98 that you were looking for. SB 98 In a joint effort between the administration and both houses of the legislature has now been completed to clarify the intent of distance learning triggers, including SB 98, the Educational Budget Trailer Bill. The intent of the section is to allow LEAs to offer distance learning based upon unique circumstances of each student. Here you go, listen carefully. In addition to making allowances for medically fragile students, students on quarantine, the language is also intended to make allowances for those students that would be put at risk by an in-person instructional model, including students with health conditions, family members with health conditions, students who cohabitate or regularly interact with high-risk individuals, or otherwise identified as at risk by the parent or guardian. So if a parent wanted to go to great lengths and say, that's my child, they could do that. But these are the criteria for a student to be in online, nothing else in the trailer bill. So that was ratified today and made clear that the legislature also wants kids in school as much as possible. And the only allowance for online education are what I just read. So I want to make that SB 98. Okay, here we go. Comments from staff. So what I've just covered was that general direction comment or that vision statement. The staff can comment on that, or health precautions. We talked about transportation, nutrition, learning loss, liability. What you see out in the audience are the folks that run the district. And they cover just about every area from instruction to transportation, after school daycare, technology, and also personnel and nutrition. And they will have some points also to clarify. But as far as the, JP, the question you said, get COVID while healing. So Daryl, you want to take this first one. What if I get COVID while teaching? Or if I refuse to, what happens? And we've got a microphone that's coming around so the audience online can hear. And we do want you to use plastic gloves to touch the microphone. So, or just grab the microphone with the. You don't work in the cafeteria, do you, Daryl?
Scoop Jones is what they call me at Stone Creek.
Okay.
So definitely what we have until December 31st is our Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And there's option for folks to use that leave rather than using their own personal leave if they haven't used it already. And so some of the criteria in there are, for example, qualifying reasons for leave related to COVID. Number one is subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. Number two, has been advised by a health provider to self-quarantine related to the COVID-19. Number three is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms and seeking diagnosis. Number four is caring for individuals subject to an order described in 1 or self-quarantine described in 2. And then number 5 is caring for a child whose school or place is closed due to COVID-19. And number 6 is experiencing other substantial similar conditions specified by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Which is also important about this leave is that it initially gives up to 80 hours for a full-time person or part-time 2-week equivalent of paid sick leave based on their rate of pay. Also 100% of pay for qualifying reasons above that I listed, 1, 2, and 3, up to $511 daily, up to a total of $5,110. And then also we have where there's two-thirds for qualifying reasons 4, 5, and 6, which is above up to a $200 daily or a $2,000 total. And then also most importantly, up to 10 weeks more of paid leave. expanded family medical leave, and paid up to 2/3 for qualifying for number 5. So there are options that folks can use continuously or intermittently with this type of leave. When they run out of this leave is when they would go back to their original leave based on the bargaining.
Mr. Johnson, can you send that to us, please?
I sure can.
Thank you.
And then it's on the website, on our webpage. It also has a document that gives more definition to.
On our webpage?
On our web,
Thank you.
under HR.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Just to replay it back to you, and some of the key points that I think I heard. So the kind of standard option for a full-time staff person
Or
is.
part-time.
I'm specifically focusing on the full-time.
Okay.
For the moment, is up to 80 hours, which, if assuming it's an 8-hour workday, that's 10 days.
Correct.
And I know quarantines are typically 14 days, so let's all think through this. If you got 2 weekends in there, that's 4 more days. So this law certainly seems like it would allow for a 14-day quarantine if a staff member needed it. And then in addition to that, I heard that there is quite a bit of other extended leave, depending if they meet all the requirements.
That is correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson.
One more point I'll add is that when this first all hit, what we did with our MOUs, with our bargaining units, is that we also agreed for those that were 65 and older and also qualified under a medical condition, we extended their paid leave when they ran out of this leave up until the end of their work year. So for example, a CSA member typically is a 10-month employee. So that ended at the end of the school year. We do have a few folks that are Teamsters that their end of the year won't end until tomorrow. So they're still under this paid leave until July 1. We've also notified them that effective July 1, that paid leave is ending, and that if they still have or require that leave, they would need to contact HR and have a conversation whether an IT meeting and see what we can do moving forward. So we've been in contact with them. And I would say that we look at numbers of people that are qualifying in that category, we're somewhere between 58 and 65 employees. I know 18 are teachers.
I have a question too. Were you finished?
Yes.
Do we have any guidance, because I heard one of the emails of a teacher that was specialized in one situation being moved to another position, and I think mainly because of what's going on with what we're having to do, and they had a special physical condition that they were citing that kept them from being able to do what they were being, I think, directed to do. Do we have any guidance on that?
Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying, they were transferred to another assignment?
This is one of the emails we had tonight.
Okay. This current year or going into next year?
It was a music teacher that said they got directed to another situation.
Yeah, no plans have been made according to that.
Okay, that's
as far as her being paid.
I don't know.
I think that was an option recommended at the
Okay.
last board meeting. That's not been decided.
We need to make sure that we have some plans and guidance.
Well, that's
for that type
why
of
we're looking for clarity.
And then typically their contracts cover transfers, whether it be voluntary or involuntary transfer process and the procedure. And we wouldn't cross classifications going from a teacher or certificated employee to a classified employee.
Thank you. The other one was the possibility of workers' compensation if people are injured with the coronavirus. But I think they were talking about in the state to giving us some immunity for all employers that way. Because to prove where you actually got the virus is going to be impossible.
What I would say in that fashion is that we would not object to someone applying or submitting a workers' comp claim. We would leave it up to SIS to make the approval.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Go ahead.
Nurse Gordon, I have a couple of questions. For peace of mind to our staff and our families and students, the first protocol sounds like that there's a temperature check. Where would you suggest that be done?
So we've looked at a few districts, both here in California and outside of California.
and they've actually presented 2 different options. They've done temperature checks as students enter the building or enter our campuses. Personally, I think that's going to be difficult for us to do, and it's going to hold up students getting into instruction. The other model is to have students checked as they're reported that they feel sick, or if a teacher sends someone up to the office, as they typically do. If they feel like a child just doesn't seem like he feels well, that's when we would do those temperature checks. So we would have that protocol in place to ensure that we're taking temperatures, because it's not just the temperature. And I think someone mentioned that. Yes, we are looking for a temperature over 100.4, but we're also looking for other symptoms, because you could have a temperature and not have COVID. So we want to make sure that our staff is trained in looking at that. And so I would hate for kids to be targeted at the gate with an infrared thermometer, and they are targeted at 100.1. And then someone says, oh, you're really close, you should go home. I really would like that to be more of a nursing judgment. That's part of our assessment tool, that we can have protocols in place that we're helping support our secretaries and clerks.
Next question.
Trustee Willard, could I just offer a thought on this too? Have we considered maybe having a designated person? I don't recall if we have a nurse at every site, but if we don't, be some designated person who could go to each classroom after the students are in there and scan everybody that way, because I think I'm going to err on the side of ultimate safety and caution, and then that way we wouldn't be holding up, the unloading of students from buses. They can get them into their classrooms. We can go to each class, scan everybody real quick, and then anybody that is over the limit there could be sent to the nurse, and like you said, for further evaluation, just as an idea for staff to consider.
Absolutely. So staffing wise, we do not have enough of our nursing staff, our credentialed nursing staff, to cover all of our districts on school sites. So we have 14 nurses and 24 sites plus opportunity school. So staffing wise, we aren't able to do that model anyway. But we absolutely, when we are looking at different protocols to set in place as we return students to our campuses, are training staff on our sites as to what to look for. So even if we're not taking temperatures in every classroom, or as those students walk through that door, we're training with our teachers, and we're developing videos, as we speak, about hand washing, how to wear a mask, what does physical distancing look like. So we have videos that we want to push out to our staff, and possibly even to parents to show to their students prior to returning to school. So we can have some measures in place where we're training staff. It just may not be a nurse.
That led me to my next question on the frequency of, mask and soil, the exchange of those, and the frequency of hand washing. Now, can you give me some feedback on that protocol?
The recommendations are hand washing anytime you enter into a new building. So as students are coming into our classrooms, they should be washing their hands. As they exit that building or exit that classroom, they should be washing their hands, as well as staff. And they actually say make it part of the routine, that kids are getting up, washing their hands, maybe hourly. Maybe that's something that we put in place so it becomes a practice and a routine. It's just, again, based on the decisions we make tonight, we can tweak the protocols that we're currently working on, because we're committed to making sure our students and staff return in the most safest environment possible. But it's based on sometimes limited information that's continuing to change. So again, based on our decisions tonight, I will go back to those protocols and look at them again to make sure we're meeting those safety standards.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Are we receiving, Mr. Hemke, are we receiving funding for things like sanitizing, gloves, and so we are. So my question is still for the nurse. Have we looked into it looks like a metal detector, but it actually takes your temperature as you're walking through? Have we looked at those devices?
I have not looked into those devices. We've looked at the thermometers, the infrareds, and then we've looked at the thermometers that you can layer across the student's forehead, but I have not looked into those.
Because I know, well, that's what we're going to purchase in the lot, is that where you walk through and it takes the kid's temperature. And I know when I was on vacation, that's pretty much how our temperature was taken as we were walking into different venues. And so I know that while we're receiving funding, we may not be able to purchase for every school site right away, but we go in baby steps and maybe buy a few here and there, kind of like we did with the scanner for the IDs as we entered campuses. But go ahead, Glenn.
So we're looking into that. Is this on?
Yes.
Yep, oh,
Put your mouth.
next to your mouth.
What to say, Glenn?
We're looking at that. We're getting quotes on those now. There's a variety of them. I haven't seen the pricing yet. I just got notified yesterday from our purchasing manager that there's a software app that goes with it, and you could do like remote temperature checking and face mask checking. So,
yeah, I think that'd be, and it's pretty quick, you know, if it requires parents getting their kids to school, 5-10 minutes earlier, it's worth it because they're being checked and then we're making sure that everyone's safe on campus. But I appreciate, yeah, I think that would be a route we could take because I know it's pretty standard almost anywhere. That's one of the biggest things is to have the temperature check. Now, if a kid's out running around or walking to school or runs to school, he's going to show up a little heated. So
you would probably need both.
You're right.
One for large scanning, and the other one for, you can do a nurse room and you check once they've cooled off.
Yeah, because you're going to have a little space for them until they pull out to recheck it. Okay, thank you.
Trustee, I think it's a good suggestion. There's actually a restaurant in town over on Buena Vista that has an iPad with an app. You walk in, it's scheduled. Now, I don't know if it's accurate, but let's definitely look into that because if it's an iPad with an app and it's accurate, then it seems it would be a great option.
Ask what the restaurant is.
I don't know that I can share the name of the restaurant offline. I'm not sure they would want me, saying that online, although it might get them more business. So, you can email me for restaurant recommendations now, apparently.
I have a question, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Mary Lou, so you said we're doing brown bag lunches, correct?
That's correct.
What about breakfast?
As far as breakfast, we've been waiting to see what waivers they're going to approve because there's been several different options. One was if we didn't get a waiver for the non-congregate feeding, then we would have the child come in the morning, pick up a sack lunch, and they would go to their classroom and eat their breakfast, okay? We have received about 4 waivers this last week, and one of them is the non-congregate. So we could possibly, one of the other options was they would they would come to the cafeteria to get their lunch, return to the classroom to eat it, and then before going home, when they're dismissed, they would pick up their breakfast for the next morning. So we have 2 different options that we could do. We were excited to see that we had 4 waivers that they did approve, and that was one of them. That non-congregate will come in handy too for the distant learners. So I don't know if we'll be offering curbside to those students who choose to do distant learning but still need nutrition provided to them. So we were excited about that one. One thing that we were hoping for was the School Nutrition Association, like I had mentioned at the last board meeting, had requested them extending the seamless summer eating offering for the 2020-21 school year where all kids 18 and under would get a free meal. They did not approve that. So we will be doing school breakfast program and the national school lunch. And families would continue to have to complete free and reduced applications, and their eligibility information would need to be collected. So we're getting a little information every day. We just got that information today. So hopefully more will come to help us have flexibility in our planning. But as of right now, that's what we're with the information we have several options for breakfast. we'll just have to decide what we're going to do.
Thank you very much.
One thing we don't have on the board, Dr. Silverberg, is daycare. And I know it was, Ms. Soames presented some options and recommendations in the last meeting. I received a lot of public comment about daycare. And if we've now narrowed our options down a little bit with what school is, we really need to also address daycare. And I don't know, trustees, we haven't really been talked about it amongst ourselves that much, but maybe you could just respond to what you've heard so far tonight and tell us what might be different about what you presented at the last meeting.
Obviously, the numbers would increase because the kids would be on campus every day. And so then we would be able to accept those children, the numbers of kids based upon the capacity of the daycare. So that would be a big help to the parents, as well as the parents would be receiving daycare 5 days a week, opposed to just 2 days a week. So the families that have to work, we'd be able to accommodate all, the 5 days that they're having to work, which most parents do work 5 days a week. So I think that does work out better for our families. On our state pre-K, we received notification this morning via meeting from the CDE that they are not reducing class size and that we are to go forward as normal if we want to maintain our grant funding. And so that just came through this morning, that we will have 24 kids in the classroom in our morning class and in the afternoon class. And their expectation is a ratio of 3 to 8 kids and keep the 3 cohorts separate during the day, but they're to attend 5 days a week. They're not going to be giving us any waivers to lower attendance. So that just came through this morning. But for daycare and for ACEs, we would be able to accommodate the families that fit the capacity of the daycare.
Thank you. And that's actually just another example of very complex and oftentimes conflicting guidance. So you said that was from the federal government, the Department of Education with respect to funding?
California Department of Education.
California.
It's a state pre-K, and they told us today that if we reduce the number of children, then we'll take a reduction to our grant.
Wow.
So we are to maintain our levels in the program, and if not, we would take a reduction. So.
Thank you. So it sounds like we can accommodate it. Certainly there's fewer people on campus. It's probably easier to spread out anyways, I would imagine. And that's, I would imagine, probably part of their thinking that there's plenty of ways to manage class sizes in that situation.
The state pre-K classes are large. They're large buildings, and so we can easily divide them up. And so we were going to be going out tomorrow to move furniture to look around to see the safest way we can provide 3 cohorts in a classroom, a teacher to 8 children, and how to do that very safely and how to sanitize and all the stuff that comes along with it to keep our kids safe.
Would this be another area, if it was needed, that we could, if it was needed to supplement funding for, could we use some of the CARES Act $17 million to help your daycare program if needed, and if we could prioritize it against other needs that we have in the district?
Our grant, if our kids are all attending, we don't need to ask for any support from the general fund. We can support with the amount of money that they give us in the grant.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Ward.
This one is for Mr. Price.
Yes.
If the board would like to go 5 days a week, and let's say we pull up to a bus stop, we would require those children getting into the bus to have a mask, correct?
The governing, the primary document that we have followed, and when I say we, I talk about our district in conjunction with current high school district, BCSD, KCSOS, has been the Board of Education's Stronger Together 60-page guidance document that was released on June 8th. Now, it says in there that, again, these are guidelines, but they're guidelines that have been brought to us by California Department of Education, California Department of Public Health, and the CDC. In that, it recommends that children wash their hands and or sanitize their hands prior to entering the buses. and that they all require face coverings. One of the biggest challenges with it is that in their document, when they start, they talk specifically about physical distancing. And one of the things, and I've gone through and highlighted several things, but they want us to create smaller student cohorts, and that the cohort in and of itself is an attempt at physical distancing because it's the same amount of students, or the same students that go to the same classroom. But they said here, to be clear, face coverings are not a replacement for physical distancing. But they should be used to mitigate virus spread when physical distancing is not feasible. So they've told us that we want face coverings. They've also recommended that we have aides on all of the buses to help with the physical distancing and with symptom monitoring. With what we had put into place in regarding transportation of special ed students 5 days a week, we have developed runs that would take us approximately 25 runs to get all of our special ed students there if we were just doing them on one bus. And it would take about 50 of us to do just one. If we wanted to do pick up one cohort, sanitize the bus, pick up another cohort, it would take us about 50 or so runs. With that, we have 38 positions for bus monitors or transportation aides. If we went to all of our students and we had to utilize all of our buses, which is over 60, that means we would have to hire at least 20 more aides. So at a minimum of 12.5 FTEs, because they are at 0.625 FTE at 5 hours. So face coverings, yes. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a long answer. Yes, we would be requiring face coverings. But imagine the challenge is going to be in the classroom to monitor, face coverings. One of the things that was said in the governor's release for the guidance document was hygienic use of face coverings by students is going to be a challenge in and of itself for them to have them on for a long period of time. That's in a classroom. So that's one of the things that we are looking at.
Is that a yes?
A very long yes.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm data-driven and research-based myself.
And my next is for custodial staff and Mr. McKnight. Is anyone here from the custodial staff? All right, this goes to Mr. McKnight.
So I can speak towards any custodian.
Okay. The sanitation of our laptops, will that hurt or harm them in the effect if we have to do those every night, sir?
No. No, not if the fogging equipment that was demonstrated to you last week is used. No.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I just want to say something real quick. I know we already passed public comment, but for whatever reason, my emails aren't transferring to my Gmail on my phone. So I just had 35 emails that I wasn't able to, and 20 of them are letters, and some of them weren't read tonight. So I just want to apologize to those watching. I've read them, and I think all their questions have been addressed already by the board. And I'll meet with you later to figure out why my messages aren't transferring over to my Gmail on my phone. But it does say PVU. It's the new link, the new email, and then you roll it over to Gmail, but this Gmail looks totally different than the one I have on my phone.
Thank you very much. At this time, thank you everybody for all of your thoughts. At this time, I would like to ask you
just a couple more things. Jerry Kincaid can't get out here without saying something. Actually, one of the things that the board will be adopting on the 21st is a closure policy. And so Jerry's group has been working on that and give you an update on the hope that we don't have to use it, but if we do, We want to make it very simple, straightforward, and Jerry will explain this document that Jennifer's passing out.
So when you take action on reopening school for the fall, you will also need to adopt a closure plan in the event that that is needed. And so Jennifer and Kay Lackey and Nurse Nancy Gordon and I have been working on developing the school closure plan that must be part of the adopting the reopening plan. This is very detailed and that's what I have here, but what I've given you is kind of a cheat sheet. And this is a protocol that provides school guidance when it becomes known that a student or an employee tests positive for COVID-19. So as you look through this, you can kind of see what the thresholds are for closing a classroom or some other learning environment and for triggering a school closure in the event we see a local spread of COVID-19. So this plan contains protocols for relocating students, for identifying those most at risk for exposure when we do have a positive test. There are protocols for cleaning and sanitizing. There are plans for communicating with stakeholders and providing instructional alternatives and also additional health and safety steps. Critical to this plan, folks, and for you is communicating to parents, employees, public health, and the media. Communication is going to be huge in the event that there is a report of a positive test at a school by an employee or student, or that we have to close down a classroom, or we have to implement a school closure. Our Parent Square platform will support a broad and timely communication, but for the purpose of trust and maintaining trust with our families, it's going to be critical to provide the best known information while protecting the privacy rights of our students, our employees, and families. Details for transporting ill students, if needed, will also need to be worked out in this plan. So what you have in front of you is a draft. You have what the thresholds are, what the triggers are in the event that we have positive tests among our students or employees. And then the more detailed plan will come and be part of your reopening, the reopening plan that you will take action on. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Ms. McKay. Looks like a pretty good document at first glance. And what I like about it at a high level is that it allows us to act incrementally rather than district-wide. So we can close a class, we could close a school, or we could, close multiple schools, or we could close the whole district. And so just at a high level, I really like that aspect. So thank you.
Any other questions from the board to our staff?
I just have questions for my fellow trustees and maybe you, Dr. Silverberg, but is the sooner the better we make a decision for staff, correct? So our next meeting's what, in 3 weeks?
That's the 21st.
Of July. So my question is, do we need to call another special meeting just so we can approve this? I think we already kind of know which direction we're headed, and that way it's finalized, approved, and staff can get working on what needs to be done. Mr. President, what is your take on having another meeting soon, and shouldn't take very long at all? And I think we need to do that for staff's sake. It's a big task and they need to get moving, and if it's going to be parents' choice, then we need to start, they need to figure out a way how we're going to reach out to those parents and let them start making a choice.
And Trustee O'King, just for clarification, are our choices 5 days and or?
5 days online, this is learning.
So those are the two choices.
Right.
Trustee,
And
they said those are the two.
That's what I'm in
That's
favor
what I'm
of.
hearing.
Correct, that's what, yes. I'm fine with that. I just think that the district needs to have a plan in place for the teachers that are going to choose the 5 days distance learning. There needs to be some type of accountability. They need to make an effort to reach out to kids, not 30 minutes or an hour a day. They need to have a schedule. They need to turn it into a site principal. They need to have some type of attendance someone needs to monitor what's happening during the distance learning, and how are we going to monitor students and their learning achievement, because their learning is going to matter as well. And it's going to be a big task, but it seems like reading the letters, I have more emails here. It just seems like there's people in favor of 5 days, people wanting distance learning. And like I said earlier, we're not going to be able to please everyone. So if we give parents a choice, that we throw that back at them and let them choose what they want is best for their child. And as a board, we'll do our end and make sure that we hold our teachers accountable.
I actually appreciate you suggesting that, Trustee Levine, because I was actually already thinking ahead of you, but you already spoke before me, so it worked out. So at this time, I'd like to, give Dr. Silverberg or any other trustees an opportunity to speak with their final thoughts regarding.
This final slide says it all. On the 21st, we will ask you to approve formally not only the closing policy, but how we'll do school. That doesn't mean that you can't give us direction tonight. We desperately need direction as soon as possible for us to put together a great program. If we got some kind of direction tonight, though it's not absolutely necessary, we would begin work tomorrow. And so the question comes down to the staff, or the board. What direction is the board giving us as staff tonight?
So, trustees, I would think we could probably make a motion tonight, just simply directing staff to bring back a proposal that meets some of these high-level criteria, and then that plan could be modified or formally approved at a future board meeting. That's one idea, and if we were to pursue that course of action, I would think there's one other topic we haven't addressed, which is, well, what do we expect out of the online portion of this? We talked a lot about the on-campus. Trustee Woolridge has put one thing on the table already, which is that if you're behind by 2 or more years, grade levels, that maybe online isn't an option. We know we need to research that. But for instance, for me personally, I would want to know in any policy and plan that the board or the staff brings us exactly what are the criteria for staff to opt out of being on campus. Will it mirror the same guidelines that the governor and the state legislature have set for students? I'd like to have clarity around exactly what the accountability is for students as it relates to this topic I keep bringing up, which is, what does truancy look like in an online environment? How are we really going to track that students are completing assignments, interacting with the teacher? I don't feel like I've received enough detail or clarity around that. So I just throw that out as another topic for discussion, is we need to define both of these choices.
And I think we're going to be offering transportation to all students, certain students, and that is something else we need to make sure that, because we need to get our kids here in school, whether it's an option or not an option. Most districts do offer transportation. I know there's no law saying that we have to, but we can offer it to some and not to others. So it's all or nothing.
Trustee,
Since everybody else is adding into this, I gotta put my 2 cents in. We need a very clarification policy from special education, Dr. Ma, what she would recommend. And we want the best for our children, but we also want to avoid liability and lawsuits, because they're going to be very expensive. So I'd like to see that too.
And I think she did a good presentation at the last meeting with all students returning, and students on the IEP would still continue to receive their services, right? Yeah.
And she did, and because I was watching it. But I would like to just make sure that we're heading in the right direction that she thinks we should go.
Mr. Chairman, After listening to my colleagues, I would just like to place a motion on the floor that the two options that the trustees of the Panama Board of Vista School District offer for this upcoming year are 5 days a week and or online distance education.
Parent choice.
Parent choice. Those are the two options.
So we have a motion on the floor for two options.
I'll second the motion. If we could have discussion, I want to know if we should entertain, I'm considering maybe a suggested amendment to your motion, Trustee Woolridge. Should we consider putting a deadline on this for staff to bring back the proposal? Because as it stands right now, again, we wouldn't be acting on it until July 21st. I think clearly there are a lot of people hoping we would formally approve something sooner, and I'm not sure that a motion just to bring back a plan is going to satisfy the requests. And so maybe I turn this around as a question to Dr. Silverberg. Does staff need all the way until July 21st to develop and respond to all the concerns and suggestions that the trustees have made tonight as well in public?
Well, I think it was 2 or 3 board meetings ago, I told you that we have the blended model figured out. We have the traditional model figured out. I know very, very few places that have the online figured out. And so that's going to take the most work. All the other, I think we have in good order. We can bring you back anything. The one that we need, the heaviest lift for us is to we can issue courseware with logins and all that that we just buy off the shelf. I think what parents are looking for is an engagement at a different level, which talks to your truancy, which talks to your accountability. If the teacher is actually seeing the students and actually seeing the students in small groups as well as individualized, that is so difficult to do. We have many, many teachers that are hitting it out of the park in the online world. And they wrote you some letters. Just go into Mrs. Camp's room at her school and you would see what we're talking about. We could duplicate that to every student that wants it. It'd be amazing. We have so many teachers that are doing a great job. We just need to duplicate that for the X number of parents that want this. What's the X number that want this? We have to do a good job at defining what it's going to look like at school and what it's going to look like online before a parent can ever make a choice. Tell me what I'm saying yes to. And that's critical for us to do. So the heavy, heavy lift is the online for us to do it well. And you talk about excellence in education. To do that on well is very difficult. Now, they are offering academies this summer that teachers are signing up for. Because everybody's having the same issue. The academy guarantees that by the end of the academy, you'll have an online program identified and what you want to do. So we're interested in that. We're interested in the best practices around the district, but if we talked with Brandy and Pam after this, they would tell you that of all the things going on, the online thing is the heaviest lift. And I don't think I really don't want to give you an answer in that one because we could throw something together and give it to you at the end of the week. But it's not going to be what, in reality is going to be what you really want. So the online one, minimum 2 or 3 weeks on that.
I guess we can, if staff was prepared prior to that, certainly we could call another special meeting. So maybe it's not needed to amend the motion and give a deadline, because we certainly want staff's best thinking. We want what's best for our staff and our students.
So the motion as presented, Mr. Lake?
I seconded your motion. I'm not going to propose an amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion, and we have a motion by trustee Woolridge, and we have a second by trustee Lake. And given the fact that all 5 of us are here, we can all raise our hands by agreeing.
I'm willing to support it. I just have a suggestion though on the online, is we need some accountability. Someone like a supervisor to actually view what's actually happening. And I think that'll help parents feel more comfortable about what's happening, whether their child's getting a good education or not. But I would support so far.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for all of your thoughts and all great thinking coming together as we continue to work as a team, as a district. Moving on to new business. The district's request for consolidated election services in preparation for the upcoming November 2020 general election. The district request for consolidated election services must be submitted to the county elections office along with the submission of notice of election offices to be filled. And moving on to adjournment. Do I have, is that a vote?
That's a motion and a vote.
Oh, we do need,
Yeah.
okay.
So moved, Mr. President.
Okay, so we have a motion by trustee O'Gean. Second by trustee Lake. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, thank you, trustees. Moving on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by trustee Woolridge. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee O'Gean. We will call this meeting to the end at 8:15. Thank you all very much.